I've just completed my first Formula Ford test and I have to say it was a fantastic experience. A big thanks to Morgan Dempsey and Jordan who did a great job preparing and running the car for me all day. So there's a few reasons why this test came about. Firstly, it's something that I wanted to do for quite a while. Formula Ford may not seem like the obvious route for someone who's looking to get into sports cars in the future, but a lot of big names such as Ayrton Senna, Eddie Irvine and Jenson Button all raced and won there earlier in their careers, so I've always wanted to drive one of these cars and see what all the fuss is about. A sponsor of mine is also looking at supporting me to do the Walter Hayes or Formula Ford Festival at the end of the year in the UK, so it was important for me to do this test and to see if the car suited my driving style. Now, the quote from the endless book of racing driver excuses, I have to mention that I was running on very old tyres that had already done several weekends, and I didn't have a seat made for me, so comfort was at a minimum. But most important, it was my very first time driving one of these things, so the day was more about getting familiar with the machinery and not necessarily about setting the stopwatch on fire. So now I'm going to show you one of my fastest laps from the day. Here it is. So I finished up the day with a 62.5 with my optimal lap being a 62 flat if I'd put my best sectors together. According to Morgan, new tyres are worth up to half a second on this track, so it's reasonable to assume that I would have been able to do 61s, which is typically what the front runners do around here. Now of course every day is different and we have to take into account the condition of the track, air density, humidity and wind speed and direction play a huge part here at Kirkistown as well. So we can't really analyse or compare laps too much given that no one else was out on track that day. But looking at the data from the 80 odd laps that I did, it's safe to say that it was a very successful first time out in the car. So what did I learn and where can I improve? Well, the biggest fear I had during the day was missing a gear and damaging the engine. This is easy to do when you're not used to a car, and as the day goes on, mistakes become more common. Not a good thing when a new engine costs $6,000. It really played on my mind, and in the latter half of the day my shift speed actually got slower as I became more conscious of missing. Back in March when I drove Kirkistown for the first time, I had a really silly off whilst qualifying in my Formula V. This had made me very wary of the chicane since I found out first hand that the tyre barrier isn't too far away. The Ford test, however, was all about getting used to a new car, not pushing it to the absolute limit. So most laps I wasn't fully committed going into the chicane, and there is a lot of time to gain there. As a competitive person, I always want to get as close to that limit as soon as possible, but this day just didn't feel right for that. If you knock a corner off the car, it's going to be costing you over $1,000. If you have a big crash, who knows how much of a loan you'll need. Now I did have one close call where I locked up going into Fisherman's after we changed brake pads and adjusted the bias. Nothing too spectacular, just a small wake up call as to how easy you can lose control of these cars. Luckily there was no damage, but Morgan had a bit of gardening to do when I got back to the pits. So much there?
Yeah, nice little farm.
After looking at my onboards and some of the data, it was obvious to myself and Morgan that I was losing a few tenths at various parts of the track, and that with more seat time I would be able to smooth out these inconsistencies. Unfortunately, motorsport is expensive and there wasn't an opportunity to come back fresh the next day and apply what I had learned. However, now I know what it's like to drive one of these cars, and I also know that I have the potential to be quick in one. So doing a race before the end of the year would be really cool, but I don't know how realistic that is just yet. I've still got the Formula V Championship to focus on, and that's my #1 priority until October. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this little insight into what a test is like. It was a very long and tiring day, but a huge amount was learned, and Morgan was very impressed with how I drove, so thumbs up all round. I'll probably do a few more videos like this from now on, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see them when they're up. See you next time.
Just leave me alone, I know